So, hi, welcome to today's podcast where we'll discuss and explore about the various education system across the globe and we'll learn it from the one who have already lived it and learned and taught in them. So, as you know, education is the passport to the future. Let's see how different countries are stamping their passport. So, our guest today is Mr. Lucas.
Hi.
He is a SAT top scorer of USA in 2005.
Yeah.
And after that, he has been to Yale University for the BA English
Psychology.
and then moved to psychology.
Yeah. I got finished up with psychology. Yeah.
So we have an experience who have already been to the Ivy League college.
Mhm.
So and now he is on the another side of the classroom, being a teacher and tutor who is teaching SAT and high schoolers all the subjects: physics, chemistry,
Yeah.
bio, math, like
Yeah.
a
Lot
long
of
variety.
stuff. Yeah.
So let's learn from him how the education system is right here in United States of America.
Okay. Yeah.
So moving to uh, from your journey as both student and as a tutor, what do you feel the American education system does exceptionally well, and where
Okay.
does it fall short in preparing the upcoming generations to for getting ready for the real world?
Okay. I would say what it does well is it's had enough time now, so it's very organized. It's got a good structure. They can develop the syllabus and the curriculum. They do stuff like the AKS, so they have the basic formalized structure well. Okay, then there's issues in terms of like investment and differing degrees of investment in different zones and stuff, and that's important. But overall, the basic structure of the education system is good. It's just within that structure, what's happening? What's the sort of the emotional development of the kids and the kind of the overall spirit of that structure is, I would say, the bigger issue to consider now. And then room for improvement or something I can work on. I personally feel like career placement, counseling the kids so that they have a lot more clarity about their purpose and their career goals, and they have opportunities to shadow or be apprentices at or like temporary apprentices or interns at even at when they're high schoolers, they could just be learning about specific careers with specific career mentors, both at a
Mhm.
high school or college level. I feel that's a big area for improvement.
Okay.
That would be, we could talk about that more, but that would be what I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Good.
Yeah.
So my second question to you, Lucas, will be it is perceived all over the world that the American education system is very creative,
Okay.
and when compared to our education system, we are claimed as having a theoretical education system. So what do
Mm.
you see in the American education system? How it is like theoretical or like more practical, and if it's practical, how it is like different from other countries?
Okay. Well, how it's different than other countries, I might not be able to speak too much about that. But I would say, okay. So, in terms of the creative thing, so one thing is there's a variety. When you look at these types of questions, you got to be prepared to be like, okay, there's a variety, there's a spread, there's a distribution. You'll find some schools that are more creative oriented and some schools that are less so. So that would be the first thing. Is just be prepared to discuss variety and complexity and nuance. Second thing, I would say that no, not so much on the creative side. When you hear about things like these different types of like experimental programs or new styles or different things like Montessori method or Montessori schools or that kind of thing where you start to see the creativity. But I would say that just for a lot of the American educational structure, it's just you got to get the kids in, you got to get them through, you got to get them graduated, you got to move them along. There's almost sort of like an assembly line or a factory style to it, and since you have a very distinct structure or curriculum and stuff, there's not as much of that room for the kind of flexibility and the organic creative growth of students. So I would say that although there might be pockets of that stuff growing in this country, there's still a lot of room for improvement on that front, on the creative front. Okay, yeah, you can learn these particular math formulas and you can learn your social studies and stuff, and that's wonderful. It's very important, but how is this stuff going to be translating to the immediate development of your career, your job, and your life overall? So, pockets of creativity, room for improvement, practicality, yes, but it might be a bit outdated, and room for sort of an updating on it.
Like once you have mentioned to me, like the education system is so pressurized on the kids right now that
Mm.
when they are done with the degree and all, they get the job, they stop learning things.
Oh
So
yeah,
that touched me a lot.
yeah.
Basically, like that might have happened with me as well. Like
Uh,
we were so pressurized to study, study, study all the
yeah,
time, get the degree, get the job, and like after
yeah,
that, I lost my interest in study. So that
yeah,
basically why
yeah,
it happens, how to improve this, how to
yeah.
make like it's more fun for the kids.
Yeah, that's a good question because you were mentioning to me about like people feeling like in America there's not a lot of pressure or something,
Yes.
and that was very surprising to me because I see these kids and there's a lot of pressure on these kids.
One thing I would like to mention here, there's one kid, and
Yeah.
the one, he keeps on telling me that I've not seen the sun in the morning rising and sun setting in the evening. And I don't know why when he says this thing, it just like I got so overwhelmed. Oh my
It
God,
made you
I'm
sad.
speechless.
It made you
Yeah,
sad.
it
Yeah,
makes me sad.
yeah,
Like the kids, he's so emotional while saying that thing. I've not seen the sun rising and sun setting from the past 3 to 4 months,
yeah,
because I have been to one class to another, jumping from like football class, then to a maths class, then to physics
yeah.
class,
And
and
extracurricular activities and stuff.
extracurricular activities. So much pressure. Like
Yeah.
I, back in India, I was thinking, oh, American life is so cool, and
No,
the kids
I
don't
don't.
have to study that much. But
No, no.
actually, experiencing this education system, it's a lot more pressurizing than
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think many other education system in the
Yeah,
world.
yeah, I agree. Is that you see a lot of the kids with a lot of homework stacked up, and they have like extracurricular activities, and they try to have to load their resumes for the college, and there's the economic anxiety about getting into college. So yeah, a lot of pressure in America as well. That's for the people out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so what were you? Okay, yeah, okay. So this thing of burnout and okay, so when you set up, humans naturally love to learn. We're naturally curious. We naturally love to learn. You just look at little kids running around on the playground and they're looking at the bug, or they want to climb a tree, or they want to look at the leaf, or they want to talk to their mommy or daddy about a leaf or
Yeah.
a squirrel. They're looking at things. They're looking at nature. They're naturally curious, and it's fun for them. It's part of fun. It's part of their process of joy. So the desire to learn, the motivation to learn, the pleasure of learning, it's in us naturally. So then you go into the school environment, and then it introduces this obligation to learn, the pressure to learn. It has to be It's connected to overcoming the fear of socioeconomic status dropping, or a desire to socioeconomic status rising. You're taking on a responsibility for your parents or your family, honor to your family, your expectations of your family. So there's a lot of stuff that then starts to do. So I would say that a kid will naturally have this desire to learn about stuff, but then you start layering on these other emotional dynamics onto it. And I would say that it interrupts the learning process. It interferes with it. It starts to bring fear and anxiety and stress into something that is naturally joyous and pleasurable and fun and motivating. So then you see what happens is the kids, they will, in a desire to want to appease their parents or just kind of do what they need to do, they will then they'll do it, but then they're now associating learning with a chore, a burden, an obligation, something you just have to get through. You just got to get through this day. You just got to get through this week. Just get through this semester. Just get through high school. Just get through college. Just get that degree. And so there's this layering and layering of just an association of learning is something that is not fun, but I just got to do it. And then as soon as they get to the point where they don't have to do it anymore, they don't want to do it. And so what you've done is you've kind of like you've severed that natural connection to the pleasure of learning, and you've layered something else onto it. And I feel like there's a lot of anxiety that's built into it in services. You want the kids to be successful and have a stable job and make enough money so they could raise a family, and that's a beautiful thing. But a kid's psychology and their emotional state and their emotional well-being is also relevant and also important as a factor as well. So it's a big discussion, it's a long discussion, but
Yeah, yeah.
that's just a little intro to that idea. So yeah.
One question on this regarding, you are saying that should be like a fun activity. I
Mm,
also agree with that point.
yeah,
Everyone agrees with that point.
yeah,
But the thing is that if we are not like asking them to learn and pushing
Mm,
them to learn,
mm,
98% of the kids are not going to study
mm.
as in
I,
the professional environment.
okay, so I would say they're not going to study what you would want them to study.
Yes,
See,
yes, it is true.
but they will study something. And this was interesting about that. They'll study something. For example, suppose I'm not saying that you should just have no structure and just like totally sort of free, because you do need some infrastructure. You need guidance. You need guardrails. There's a lot. But in this discussion, so let's say you just sort of as an experiment, you just let the kid kind of do what they want to do. Like for example, like if you wanted to teach the kid reading, and it's like, okay, we have specific books you want them to read, but they don't like these books, Catcher in the Rye or the Shakespeare and stuff. So you said, let the kid figure out what they read. Well, they might bring in some comic books or a book about cars or like race cars or something. And they're interested in it, they like it. And what are they doing? They're reading. They're reading. They're reading. They might not be reading what you would say is, oh, well, this is not
That's going to
Shakespeare.
help them in
This is,
future.
yeah, this is not Shakespeare. This is not, all right. But they are reading. And so if you can then foster that love of reading, then they're like, oh, reading's fun. I like reading. I read about cars. I read comic books and like manga, graphic novels or stuff. Then the reading is fun for them and exciting. And then a year down the road or something, they have to sort of read something else, and they kind of, oh, I like that. I like, and then eventually they'll get to like, okay, I'm interested in this. Let me read this. Let me do that. But they have this base of they enjoy what they're doing, and they can naturally gravitate to the things that are going to help them in their career or their job. When it comes time, there's that sort of that need to read something like a technical manual or something that's going to help them be an engineer or something. They've already developed these structures underneath that of I enjoy reading. Reading's fun. Oh, let me
Mhm.
read this. Now it's time for me to be more of an adult, be more mature. I want to read this. So if you immediately cut that down, it's like you shouldn't be reading comic books. You shouldn't be reading about those cool sports cars. You need to read Shakespeare. If you immediately cut into that, then you're losing something for the long-term sustainability. And you
That's
might
right.
temporarily get, okay, they're reading Shakespeare and okay, great. But then once they're out of high school or college, you're like, I don't want to read. I just want to watch Netflix and that's it.
That has happened to me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can, I can
That's
just
the
validate.
burnout. That's the burnout.
I validate your point. I was
Yeah.
so pressurized to read like so many books at that point of time, and now I don't
Yeah.
want to read at all. But now,
Yeah.
lately, like from past 3 to 4 months, I started having interest in a lot of books again.
So there you go. So you're reconnecting, you're regrowing an interest.
Yeah,
So I'm
kind of.
saying that we shouldn't get rid of that process early on for kids, because humans can naturally regrow and rebuild things.
Yeah,
I'm just saying this. How about we don't make it so they need to regrow it, so they can just grow it all the way through from the
right,
beginning.
right. So, Lucas, one more most
Mm,
important question I want to ask you, like
yeah.
in your experience with the education, American education system, how
Mm.
much the parents are involved in the decision making of the career path of the kids? Are they involved? Or the kids have their own freedom to decide their career path? I'm talking about like middle class families.
Yeah. Okay. And so this is another one is you got to be ready to talk about a lot of variety and for nuance, because there's a whole lot of people and a lot of different experiences. And then you mentioned middle class, and
Middle
so
class.
the socioeconomic status is very relevant, because your decision making profile that you have depends a lot on the amount of wealth that you have. So the decisions of upper class families and what they're interacting with is going to be different than middle class or the families that are struggling. So that's an important thing to consider as well. I would say though that in America, again, there might be this stereotype or this idea that the kids are just free to decide what they're going to be, and
Hmm.
they're just gonna, oh, I just want to be this or that. But I would say that no, like alongside all of these kids having the pressure to do so much homework and to have these extracurricular activities and to get into college, that's coming from somewhere. That's coming from the family. That's coming from the parents, the decisions of the parents and the family. So the parents are involved. One way or the other, more so or less so, there's some involvement. And then even if you might have parents that aren't explicitly telling their kid, you need to be a doctor, a lawyer, or engineer, there can be the kids can pick up on this indirect influence from the parents, just the way that the parent might be more affirmative towards this particular thing or less so to another thing. Then the kids are sensitive to their parents emotional states, and then they'll be like, okay, well, my dad's not telling me that I need to be a doctor, but I can kind of guess that he would be more proud for me to be a doctor, and it
Yeah.
wouldn't be particularly proud if I did this thing.
Mhm.
So the kids can kind of have that pressure that way. So yes, I would say that in America too, that you have the parents are having because they have to decide like, okay, we want to invest in the kids' education. We're gonna have to pay money for their college, or we're gonna find scholarships. And then the parents are anxious about, are my kids going to be better off than we are? Is their life going to improve? Or are they going to be worse off than us? And they don't want their kids to fall into poverty. And then they just
That
layer on
makes
the kind of like
sense.
what's going on politically, economically in our country. And so there's a lot of anxiety from the parents, and then that gets transferred to the kids. So yeah, parents are involved in this
Yeah,
process.
there's a
Yeah.
misconception around the world that maybe in India specifically, we have a
Mm.
misconception that kids around the world are not pressurized to do what they don't want to do. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's the thing. I'm not speaking about this fully negatively or positively. It's more like this is a description of the situation, and then you can see how, in some ways, it can be there could be negative consequences, and then in some ways, if it's done in a different way, there could be positive consequences. There's got to be a balance. You can't just kids need guidance and they need structure. Even when they start to get older, it's guidance and structure is important, but it's the type of guidance, the type of structure, and the way it's delivered is very important. And if it's just like excess freedom, it can that can be oppressive because you have too much options, and it's just too difficult to figure out what to do. And you just do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
yeah,
That in and of itself, excessive freedom in and of itself can be kind of its own form of lack of freedom. It's kind of a weird thing to
yeah,
say, but yeah.
that's cool.
Um,
That's cool. Like taking a pragmatic decisions at a time, it's very important for the parents to
yeah,
take it for the kids, I guess.
yeah, and the parents just have to find this balance where they can see the steps that the kids need to take to get into a good position in their life,
Yeah.
but also respect that the kid is an unique individual that might have interests or desires that are different than what they have,
Hmm.
and also respect that the kid is growing up in a context of life that's different than how when the parents grew up.
Hmm.
So when the parents were kids 40 years ago, the political situation, the economic situation, the cultural situation, the country, the technological situation, the country, technology, smartphones, social media, AI, all that stuff, that wasn't there. And the kids are in this kind of brand new environment. So a sensitivity to these kids have to adapt to things that we didn't even were considering.
Yes, yes,
So if
yes.
a parent can find a balance where they give that a healthy structure to the kid, but also respect that there's a newness to what the kids are going through nowadays, then that'll be effective.
That
But
makes sense.
that requires good parenting too. Yeah. So yeah.
So, like my last question to you is like you have been to Ivy League college, you have been
Yeah.
affiliated to
Yeah.
Princeton, Harvard, and have a degree from Yale.
Yeah.
So, being through that strong academic education system, so what do you suggest to the students who are looking up to the Ivy League college? Like, even they are not developed, still they are putting a lot of money into
Mm.
that. Is it worth?
Okay. So I will say about like the Princeton and Harvard thing, those were like summer language programs for Japanese and Chinese. My main place I studied at was Yale. Uh, okay, so Ivy League. All right, it was a great experience. It was a good opportunity. I learned a lot. Okay, but I feel like it's important that they should not be overhyped, specifically about Ivy League, and especially for the bachelor's degree, because nowadays a bachelor's degree doesn't do what it used to do like 40 or 50 years ago. I would say that. Yeah, that's okay. It's more of the master's degrees and the PhDs that have that return on investment, that immediate translation to career placement and to career stability. A bachelor's degree nowadays, even from an Ivy League school, is not going to have that level of return on investment. So that's something to consider. Don't overhype it, especially for the bachelor's degree. Now, if you're excited about it, and you're motivated about it, so basically what I would recommend nowadays to uh, if you're a wealthier family and you have that economic flexibility and you're excited about it, go for it. Okay, that's a different decision making pathway profile. But if it's a middle class family or a lower struggling family, I would say that my recommendation would be for the bachelor's degree, stay in state. You could get scholarships, it'd be more affordable, and you could figure out what you're passionate about. You could figure out a career pathway or trajectory, and then that sort of savings that you get from staying in state, that you could then, okay, says, I want to do this. I want to do this field. I'm passionate about it. So I'm going to take that money that I've saved and I'm going to put it into a master's degree at Yale, at Ivy League, or a PhD at Yale. Save it for the master's degree, save it for the
Mm-hmm.
PhD. I had an opportunity to go to Georgia Tech, and I got like I was doing like the presidential scholarship thing, and I almost got to the top level. It was like second to the top, so I might have been able to get almost a full ride, just very little. In-state school, Georgia Tech, amazing school. And looking back, I kind of wish I had had a bit more of the maturity to make that decision, because it would have saved my family a lot of money, and we would have been in a better economic position. And I could have taken those 4 years to figure out, okay, I want to do this, 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 and then that savings, I could have said, okay, I'll go to Yale for a master's degree. Woo, great. Um, so that's what I would say to the students, in terms of that. That's my kind of what I've learned when I reflect back on that situation. But Yale was awesome. It was a great experience. I'm not putting that down, but you kind of look back a little bit and look at it with a little more maturity. That's what I would say.
Great.
Person.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So the crux of this is what we think back in India is like our education system and our way to go to college is the most stressful. No, it is not. Looking into the American education system and having more insights. It's like in India, we have only one competitive exam that we have to crack to get into college. But here, one exam is not enough. After that, you have to get a good GPA in the schools,
Mhm.
and then you have to get the AP placements,
Oh yeah.
and then honors, and then volunteering, then extracurricular,
Yeah.
and then cultural activities. So you
Mhm.
have to be
And an essay.
a college
You have to
essay.
write a good college essay.
So
And an interview. You got to have an
an
in-person
interview,
interview.
like you have to be like have an overall personality to get into the college, not only one exam. So the kids here are under a lot of pressure than what we have back in India. So I just want to share this podcast with all of you to discuss. It's not what we think it is, and the life everywhere in the world is different from what we have imaged in our mind. Maybe, yeah.
Wow. Well said.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lucas.
Oh, thank you.
So,
Thank you very much. Yeah. Appreciate